Hey you witches, how you doing today? We're back with another video, and this one is going to be a book review of The Witch's Key to the Legion, a guide to Solomonic Sorcery by L.M. Black. Yeah, not a probably overly well-known book, but one that I think any witch interested in spirit work would be well advised to check out. Before we get started, my name is Taya. For those of you who are new around here, welcome to the channel. We talk about all things witchcraft, especially traditional witchcraft. And thank you so much to those of you who are returning viewers, maybe coming in from another video. Yeah, the support is just very, very appreciated. And all of you, please consider subscribing. It's a really great way to help us build the channel. So, The Witch's Key to the Legion. This book was originally published in 2013, and it has been revised and expanded in 2021, and we're going to talk about that. It's published by Asteria Books, and the author is L.M. Black, or Laurelei Black. You might know her from the Blade and Broom YouTube channel, and it has illustrations by L.M. Black and J. Blackthorne in it. So yeah, it's a really cool little book, but it was revised and expanded in 2021. And I want to address this sort of upfront because I think a lot of people, if you go to the Amazon reviews, you see all the reviews. It's a continuous listing. So it was originally published in 2013. And it was, from my understanding, it was just an actual index of the Goetic spirits, the 72 Goetic spirits. And with her sort of findings and her own personal findings on the Legion, as well as a compilation of other information. We'll kind of share that a little later in the video. But it didn't really have a lot of technique in it, and a lot of people purchased the book thinking it was going to tell them how to work with spirits, and it didn't really. It was more of a spirit index. So a lot of the comments and the reviews are like saying, oh, it didn't tell me this and it didn't tell me that. Well, Laurelei really took that constructive feedback to heart and has expanded the book to include a very generous how-to section and all kinds of extra information. So it went from a very small book, it was, my understanding is about this thick, to like this thick. It's 500 and some pages. It is a tome and it is full of amazing information. So, spirit work. I think a lot of witches that I talk to, you know, they're interested in getting into spirit work. But a lot of witches are also afraid of spirit work. And maybe they'll do a little bit of ancestry work, a little bit of work with the spirits of the land. But this idea of working with the Goetia, with King Solomon's Legion that were bound together, there's 72 spirits that were bound together to build Solomon's great temple. And a lot of people are very hesitant. First of all, they're often called demons, right? They're like, it's like the demonic spirits. And the techniques are often outlined in books like the Lesser Key of Solomon the King, the Lemegeton, the Ars Goetia, all these sort of ancient grimoires. And really what they talk about is the binding and enslavement of these sorceress spirits. And a lot of people aren't comfortable with that, right? That idea of binding and enslaving a spirit, because it makes it sound like, geez, that spirit is out to get me. And if I'm not strong enough, if my binding isn't good enough, it's going to break free and wreak havoc in my life. And it's not necessarily quite so black and white. So this work really outlines an entirely new way of working with the Goetic Legion. Basically, she looks at it like there's new methods for a new age. You know, so it's really, the book is really for people who are inclined towards spirit work, especially with these Goetic spirits, but aren't really wanting to, you know, bind and enslave. Now, I'll be honest, if somebody tried to bind and enslave me, yeah, I would fight back. But if somebody comes to me and says, hey, could we, like, you know, make a deal? I'll give you this if you could help me do this. I would be interested to at least having that discussion, right? I'm not going to go into it kicking and screaming. But if you're trying to bind and enslave me, you're darn straight I'm going to go into it kicking and screaming, right? So it's really about this way of working with spirits in a cooperative way. Now, she does have a do not call list. There are 8 of those 72 spirits that she basically says, do not call on them. They are not, it doesn't matter how friendly, how like helpful, how like, you know, positive you are being, they are not going to respond well. Just don't call on them. But for the other, what does that leave? 64 spirits. She's like, we can actually work with them in a more like traditional witchcraft way. And it outlines a whole system for it. So basically the book starts out with a section called Commentaries, right? A section called Commentaries. And she talks about creating this key for witches. She talks about evocation, invocation. She talks about banishing. She talks about spheres and pyramids and the affinity between witches and spirits. There's all kinds of really interesting information in here on the creation of the Legion, on the meaning and use of their seals, Solomon's ring and his legacy, right? And then she talks about the Greater Legion and the demonic do not call list. She gives you some goetic correspondences and talks about the areas of interest and influence for each spirit. So it's kind of just an interesting sort of preamble. Then she gets into she calls it the Conjurer's Craft. This is like kind of the second section of the book, where she goes through tools of conjuration, aligning the 3 souls, which is sort of her grounding and centering, cleansing, shielding, and banishing, which is really what she says that's the basics that you should have down before you try spirit work. She talks about laying the compass and building a pyramid within it to evoke a spirit. She talks about invitation and departure, so inviting spirits to come in and how you would sort of get them to depart. She talks about methods and techniques of spirit communication, so while you have them there, how are you corresponding with them? She talks about the compact, or making a pact with a spirit. She talks about the vessel, or creating a home that spirit can inhabit. She talks about offerings. And then she has a section called In Case of Emergency. So basically, if what she's talked about in the cleansing, shielding, and banishing, right, if that's not enough to get a spirit to go away, here's your in case of emergency, pull out the big sticks, this is what you want to do. So it's very comprehensive. It is based on her Spiral Castle tradition, which is like an American folkloric tradition. So it's very traditional witchcraft based. And yeah, I mean, it really resonates with me because I'm studying that system of traditional witchcraft right now. So to me, it makes perfect sense. So I don't really maybe have the, what do you call it? I don't necessarily have the separation between myself and the system to really, really evaluate it. But I mean, to me, it makes perfect sense. It works exactly with what I do in my practice now. And then the next section is basically the index of the 72 spirits. So I'll show you one so you can kind of get an idea of what's in it. So we'll use Eligos. So this is a woodcut done by J. Blackthorne. Some of them have pictures done by Laurelei herself. She has like ones where she's done, it's almost like a collage that she's created. But this is Eligos, so this is his woodcut. And then on the other page, I'll just pop around the side here, they do things like, she's got his name, other names he may be known by, his traditional sigil, his alternate sigil, and then any sort of correspondences that might have been noted for him, his areas of influence and interest, grimoires which mention him, and then this is sort of the interesting part. Then she actually pulls out descriptions of this spirit. So in this one, he was mentioned in the Book of Oberon, the Pseudomonarchia Demonium, the Dictionnaire Infernal, and she actually goes through and pulls out those descriptions of this spirit in those works. And then, this is where her additional insight comes in. She adds additional insight unlocked with the witch's key. And she spent years working with her coven, with her partner, and on her own, communicating with her spirit S, who helped her get to know all of these 72 spirits of the Goetic Legion. And so she has written basically her own personal findings on this on this spirit. And it's kind of interesting because she will pull like from those lists of what they're interested in. So, right, so for Eligos, it says his areas of influence and interest are divination, scrying, visions, love, lust, and sex, mysteries, hidden things, secrets, war, strategy, defense, reputation, honor, and dignity. And then when she goes through, I don't even know if she did it in this one, but she'll say, like, in today's modern times, like, this would be a great spirit for somebody who's an influencer or a health influencer to work with, that kind of stuff. Sorry, I'm just reading really quick. He can help leaders be similarly aware, strategic, and tactical, therefore helping those same leaders to be on the winning side of the conflicts in their communities. Leaders who work with him are often very popular because they help their people win victory while still maintaining the political balance and place that the community craves for stability. So, right, it kind of gives you a bit of a write-up on from her perspective and her working with her spirits. And some of these spirits she corresponded with directly herself. Some of them, it's coming through her familiar S, who is filling her in on these sort of spirits. So it's kind of a combination of both. And she actually has a story in here about the 8 do not call spirits and what happened when she first sort of put them on the do not call list. It's a very interesting story. So yeah, all in all, guys, if you are interested in spirit work, specifically with the 72 Goetic Legion spirits of King Solomon, the Witch's Key to the Legion is a really cool resource. I found it made it a lot more accessible for me. It took a lot of the fear out of it. She's still very serious. Like, she's like, this isn't something you just enter into lightly. You know, you need to have these techniques down before you want to attempt this sort of work, right? It's a serious undertaking, but, right, it's not, when you approach it from this cooperative aspect, right, this idea that if, you know, these spirits are willing to work or want to work with people, they, you know, if you approach them in a, you know, compatible way, you can have really great results as long as you don't touch those 8 do not calls. So anyways, I think it's a great book. If you want to purchase it, you can go to Amazon and look it up there. That is where it's available for purchase. And again, just those reviews, don't worry about them. It has been republished. It says originally from 2013, but it is the 2021 republication. I actually waited. I was waiting for it to update and it never did. And I finally got in touch with Laurelei and she was like, no, just purchase it. It'll bring you the new one. So even though it says the 2013 and there's some not so positive reviews, skip it. I'm going to actually go right after this and put my own positive review down for it, that it's been completely redone. And she took into consideration all of that feedback that she received through those comments. I think it's a really great source book for, yeah, again, witches interested in working with those spirits. It's a really great book. Okay. So have you worked with those spirits? Have you read this book? I'd love to know your experiences. Like, drop us a comment. Otherwise, yeah, that's our video for today and we'll catch you in the next one. Mwah. Thanks so much, you guys.